Hello and welcome back to Albums Club. We've been away for a few weeks, but we are here and we're ready. I'm going to talk about 3 albums, as usual. 2 albums that are out today, Ed Sheeran and Temples, and then 1 classic album. We will save that to the end. I'm Leonie Cooper and this is...
Tom Howard.
And we shall begin with Ed Sheeran's new album, which is out today.
It's real, we watch the sunset over the castle lonely.
What's it called, Leonie?
It is called Divide.
It's called
So
Divide.
it follows on from his last 2 albums. 2011's debut was Plus, 2014's was Multiply, and now we're on Divide. He's going through all of the maths, which is great. And it's probably going to be the biggest album of the year.
You'd think so, unless...
Adele releases another album.
Well, or just people keep buying the same Adele album, because the Adele album that came out in 2015 was the best-selling album of 2016, right?
So this might be the best-selling album of
Best-selling
2018.
new album, yeah.
It's going to be big. It's Ed Sheeran. How could it not be big? He is on the cover of NME this week. Doesn't he look good?
And inside is a list of 50 things that you don't know about Ed Sheeran, that you don't know about the second biggest pop star in the country, possibly the world.
Definitely the world. Number 1's Adele, right?
Yeah.
So he's the first biggest male pop star
Biggest
in the
male
world.
pop star in the
If we're
world.
going to divide it like that.
Discuss.
Divide is also the name of this album.
Discuss.
Do you see what?
So what we're going to do, we're going to ask Leonie some questions to see how much she knows about the second biggest pop star in the world. Leonie,
Yes, Tom. I'm ready.
what did Ed Sheeran once buy Jordan from Rizzle Kicks for his birthday?
A canoe.
Incorrect. It's a Rolex.
Did Jordan want a canoe?
We don't go into that, actually.
All right.
Which film was Ed Sheeran in with Sarah Soleimani?
Was it Pride and Prejudice?
No.
What was it?
Bridget Jones's Baby.
Well, it's sort of the same thing, isn't it? Rom-com, women.
Ed Sheeran's song Don't,
Yes, I know it.
that's about an A-list love triangle.
Oh.
Who are the 3 points of the triangle?
Is it Cary Grant, Katharine Hepburn, and Spencer Tracy?
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, it
those
isn't.
guys.
It's Ed Sheeran, Ellie Goulding, and One Direction's Niall Horan.
For real?
Yeah. Do you know about that? And
What
Ed said,
information have you got?
about this song that it opened up a door I probably shouldn't have opened up. I just won't say who it's about because, I mean, everyone just knows anyway.
Okay.
And there you go. So yeah, a little treat for you there.
So let's talk about the album. So it's his 3rd album. It's kind of hard to underestimate just how big Ed Sheeran is.
Yeah.
So there was kind of those shows at Wembley Stadium a few years ago. You know, he's the only person to ever played Wembley Stadium completely solo.
Yeah.
So no one else on stage, which is pretty impressive.
What Ed Sheeran has done is truly amazing. There's been... the world is not short of dudes with guitars singing about things and being sad and reminiscing about the past or, all that sorts of things. But for some reason, and I will admit, I don't know what the reason is, but for some reason, something about what Ed Sheeran does has connected on a level that I'd suggest no other, like, obviously comparing Ed Sheeran to Bob Dylan is insane because Bob Dylan is important
He's quite a lot older as well, isn't he?
in different ways. He crafted modern music, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think he's never been as big as Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran is bigger
Dylan.
than any...
I think one of the reasons is because one of the other biggest pop stars in the world, Taylor Swift, kind of took him under her wing a few years ago and just took him around the world. He supported her on massive tours, and being introduced to her crowds, which are massive, definitely gave him a good leg up. So I think that's one of the reasons why he's become as big as he is. But even so, just supporting someone is not enough to then turn you into
But he's loved
a phenomenon.
As you may have seen at the Brit Awards, where he performed with Stormzy, he's loved by the grime world.
Everyone loves Sheeran.
I think his first EP, but he has released an EP which featured loads of grime artists. There's no guest spots on this new album, but yeah, he had loads of grime artists, including Wiley and whoever.
I think he just comes across as well as just like a decent guy.
Yeah.
Like a guy you're like, yeah, I'd just go for a drink with Sheeran.
And this tattoo is real.
I mean, that's not a real image of the tattoo.
He has a giant lion face on his chest.
He's got lots of tattoos.
And I think this one here is real too. It just says lads on tour. Lads spelled with a Z.
That's it, with a Z.
It's funny, isn't it?
That's not the technical correct
It's
spelling.
funny. So yeah, look, Ed Sheeran's not a person I go home personally and listen to all evening long.
That's Bob Dylan, obviously.
No, not anymore. That was the old days.
Well, no, maybe the music is not for you, but musically, it's a well-written album. Like, the first track, it's called Eraser.
Yeah, I mean...
And it's basically Craig David's Walking Away,
Yeah.
which is an amazing song. And it's a potted version of his life story. So there's a lot about Ed's life. He's only just turned 26 as well, but we go deep into Sheeranville.
Yeah.
Castle on the Hill is his kind of Suffolk Springsteen song. It's all about him driving in cars and getting nostalgic for his youth all of 10 years ago, getting drunk in parks. I mean, we've all been there. Have you ever got drunk in a park, Tom?
Yeah.
At the age of 15?
Yeah, 100%.
Then you and Sheeran have a lot in common.
I know, but everyone has a lot in common with Ed Sheeran. That's what he's managed to do, isn't it?
He's an everyman character.
You know, these supersized pop stars or bands don't come along very often. Like, you know, but he is one, and no matter what he does now, probably for the rest of his life, he will always be just immensely famous.
Can I talk about my favourite lyric on the album?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's my favourite lyric, but it's definitely one that stood out to me. It's on a song called New Man, which was co-written by Jessie Ware.
Okay.
Yeah. I like Jessie Ware.
More cred.
Jessie Ware. And it's
More
all about
cred.
this kind of modern metrosexual character who, it transpires, is going out with his ex-girlfriend. Ed's not too happy about that. And at one point he says he's got his eyebrows plucked and his arsehole bleached. I feel like Kanye West has opened up the door for
I was going to say
for
like,
arsehole lyrics.
The second album in less than a year, is it?
Yeah.
To have mentioned a bleached arsehole.
Interesting.
Yeah.
3 and it's a trend. Who's next?
Do you?
Next. There's a song on the album called Galway Girl, which is bizarrely like kind of The Cause meets BBK. If you ever thought that would ever happen.
Yeah.
And apparently he had to fight for that song just down the album because it's basically this kind of Irish jig song, and I think the label...
Fight with who? The record label?
The label, yeah.
Yeah,
Not just not street tussle.
Yeah. That's good though, because I imagine, you know, industry talk. It's hard to win an argument with a record label if you sign to a big major record label. But if you're Ed Sheeran, you've got the power. This guy's got the power.
So the fight was probably like, come on guys. And they're like, yeah, all right, Ed. And it also mentions Van Morrison, who's one of his favourite artists as well. And
he mentions Damien Rice.
He does.
He's one of his favourite artists.
He loves Damien Rice.
Loves him.
Yeah. And a lot of the album was written with a guy from Snow Patrol, so it's got that kind of Snow Patrol-y vibe as well, that kind of nice guy rock from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And what else? The Shape of You is the song that's the kind of, what stands out from the rest, because it's the sort of Bieber-esque Trop House number. And he's in love with the shape of you.
It's a bit sexy, isn't it?
It's a little bit sexy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
just
nice.
a little bit sexy.
I think it's nice that Ed Sheeran feels like he's in a place where he can write a song like that. You know?
What sexy song?
Like, Ed Sheeran is an unlikely person to fill the tiny pointed boots of Prince. But maybe with Shape of You, this is him drifting into sexy Lover Man territory.
I feel like more he's putting on the wacky spectacles of Elton John.
Really?
Yeah. Just that he's going to become that kind of character.
Fascinating.
Like, just that everyone loves him.
I suppose, but what we've both failed to acknowledge is he's not flamboyant in any way, is he? This is one of the things that...
The tattoos, maybe.
I guess so, yeah. This seems to be one of the things that people like about him, is that he's very...
Yeah. He's just wearing a hoodie from Quicksilver.
Normal. It's a normal guy, yeah?
Yeah.
It's a normal guy talking about normal stuff on a normal guitar.
It's just like...
Normal.
Just your mate.
Just your mate, yeah.
I like him.
But yeah, maybe, look, like you say, he's only 26, he's got many years ahead of him. He could yet have an Elton John face.
No, I mean like he sounds like Elton John. But he strikes me as he's kind of feeling that...
I mean, he's bound to go he's bound to do it, like, you can't stay that famous for that long and stay normal.
He mentions the song Tiny Dancer on the album. So,
yeah.
There's a lot of references to pop culture stuff and stuff that he's into, and well, it's just nice. It's like a scrapbook.
It's like a scrapbook.
It is indeed. I think we've come to the end of Sheeran.
Well done, Ed.
Congratulations.
You're killing it.
You bloody well are, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
Next is the new Temples album, Volcano.
I was looking at the stars, not the ones you see. Silently appeared through a silver limousine.
Da-da-da! It is the new Temples album, which is called Volcano. So Temples, Kettering's finest,
Yeah.
as they have come to be known, are a kind of psychedelic-y band. They are essentially our Tame Impala.
Yeah.
That's their vibe. Their first album came out in 2014. It was called Sun Structures. So we're on a kind of similarly kind of earthy-based thing with volcanoes. I suppose the sun isn't the earth, but the natural world is probably what I'm trying to say there. And Sun Structures, did you know, was the biggest selling vinyl record in the UK in independent record shops in 2014.
I absolutely did not know that.
Yeah,
What was
I
number
struggled
two?
to remember that
What was
fact,
number
but-
2?
Well, I don't know that, Tom.
Okay.
It's rude of you to ask, in fact. So they are kind of like, they're a muso band, they're a vinyl geek band, because they have this throwback sound. It's very 60s.
Yeah.
So it's definitely kind of Tame Impala-esque, but with a definite kind of British weirdness to it.
And
so there's like
they
Sid
sound,
Barrett-y.
they sound good, don't they?
They do, oh,
They're a vinyl band, they're a headphones
an
band.
audiophile's dream,
Absolutely.
as you could, yeah. possibly
James
say.
Bagshaw takes that kind of stuff very seriously.
Now that's, do you know what? I love James Bagshaw.
Do you?
'Cause he's just got that perfect name as well. He sounds like he should be in Pink Floyd in the 1960s.
Yeah, okay.
His hair is fantastic, this big curly bush of a thing. He looks like he wears velvet bell-bottoms every day, and I'm sure he does. He's a skinny, snake-hipped man. The only thing he could do is be in a rock band who plays 60s music.
Yeah.
He's just got James Bagshaw. Do you know any Bagshaws?
I don't think I do, no.
No.
Quite a few Jameses, though.
Yeah, that's common.
Yeah.
That's quite common. They're signed to Heavenly Records, who specialise in that sort of weird English psychedelic stuff. This album, what do you think of it, Thomas?
I think that the best word I could come up with to describe Temples is accomplished. They're absolute pros at what they do, and as we were saying, like James Bagshaw, he's very good in the studio. They make psych that sounds right. It sounds like it should. It sounds like, you know, there's a lot of psych bands in the world at the moment, and there has been for the last few years, and a lot of them don't sound right. And obviously, this, you know, the scene is the worldwide scene is led by Tame Impala, who are probably the biggest of the lot.
Perth's finest.
Perth's finest in Australia.
Yes, Western.
But yeah, you know, Temples do it right, and like I say, you know, the people who know what they're talking about like Temples. And it's, you know, it's immersive, like all good psych is.
Yeah.
You can really get lost in the album, and because it creates worlds around you, and it's got a lot of enjoyably silly lyrics. For example, this is in the song "Certainty," which I think is the first single from this. It's one of the singles.
It's certainly
from
the
this.
first track on the
Right,
album.
yeah, there you go. So one of the lyrics is, "We land upon the parallelogram on the sand of another land."
Wow.
Another lyric from that song is, "On pebbles," sorry, I couldn't read my own writing then. "On pebbles close to Never Never Land, in the palms of another land."
Are there any about arseholes, though?
Unless their parallelogram is a nickname that they've developed for bleached arsehole, no. So there's, you know, there's enjoyable lyrics, but I think, so the one thing to me, just me, not telling any of you how to think, that makes them not quite as powerful as a band like Tame Impala is the Temples are very good. They're like a lesson in how to do psych. They do psych and they do it well, but it's not that personal, I don't think.
Okay.
Like I could be doing them a disservice, and but you know, like Kevin Parker, the guy in Tame Impala, all of his songs are very introspective, and some of them are quite sad, and it all feels very, very close to his heart, close to the bone. Whereas to Temples don't really do that. It's a bit more looking outwards and creating these sort of fancy lands, which is cool, but you know, so, to me it lacks that depth.
Temples are very kind of gnomes at the bottom of the garden, kind of weird, quirky, odd things happening, which is what makes them kind of very not even just British, but very kind of English
Yeah.
in that way. There is this definite kind of looking back to
Maybe
the
that's
past,
the
almost
thing.
like medieval.
Maybe it's because
stuff.
they're English. There's a
Yeah.
stiff upper lip thing
Exactly,
going
they're
on.
like, I'm not going to tell you what's happening in my
Yeah,
real life. Let's
exactly.
talk about the weird, quirky
It's
things
none of your
that are
business
happening.
what's going on in James Bagshaw's life.
Yeah, I want to know what's going on.
Let's sing
in
about
his hair.
parallelograms.
Yeah,
You want to know what's living in his hair.
but sonically, it is impressive. It's like the
Sounds-
sonic equivalent of a lava lamp.
Whoa.
It's like that. It sounds great. There's and it's in comparison to the last album, it's a bigger sound as well. So you're saying they're accomplished. They're even more accomplished. Obviously, 3 years later, they've learned some tricks. But I think James produces it all himself. They do it all in their home studio in Kettering. Have you ever been to Kettering?
I don't think so. No. But I agree, they're much bigger sound. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think this is a
squelchier
better
and
album
beefier. Yeah.
than their first album.
So I'm quite interested to hear the third album.
Totally.
Maybe they will then look within themselves.
They've got a lot of legs. There's ideas there.
Well, there's like 4 of them, so they've got 8.
8 legs. Yeah.
Fact.
I've realised. So what we should do is rate this album
Yeah.
and then rate the Ed Sheeran album
Okay.
because we forgot to do that.
Sure.
So what do you give this?
I'm gonna give it a 4.
I would give it 3.5.
Yeah, I thought you might.
Yeah.
You can't do halves, can you?
Don't know.
You just did.
Who's going to stop me? This guy? No. What would you give Ed Sheeran's album?
I quite like the Ed Sheeran album.
Yeah. What
I'm
do you
gonna
give
it
it?
a 4.
I'd give it a 3.5.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So now we come on to the classic album, which is 20 years old this week. Do you know what it is? Yeah, you know what it is. We've prepared in advance. Is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds with The Boatman's Call.
Into my arms, oh Lord, into my arms, oh Lord.
So, 20 years old this week, The Boatman's Call, which is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds' 10th album, and generally known to sort of be their greatest release in the canon of Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. This is the one that people always talk about because it marked such a difference from what had been going on before. Before it was all this kind of mad carnival stuff and Nick Cave is this sort of satanic demon type figure. And then this album came out and it was all very minimal, very piano based, all these love songs. It's very tender, it's very introspective, very low key. And people were like, oh, he's not just a crazy man, he's got a heart and it's all about love and about religion and about the wonder of the world, but it's sad, but it's romantic. So people were like, yeah, into it. Do you like it?
Into my arms,
Yeah,
oh Lord.
that is one of the songs.
Into my arms,
Yeah.
oh Lord.
So it doesn't sound like that.
That's the only song. So I don't really know this album that well.
Okay.
I know that song obviously, and I really like that song, and I really like Nick Cave
Mm-hmm.
and the Bad Seeds. But he's an artist who I am yet to delve that far back into his
Okay. Oh, well,
career.
you've got loads
Especially
of delving to
yeah,
do.
'cause I've
That's a lot.
kind of done the Birthday Party.
Yeah.
Who was his band, of course,
Mm-hmm.
before the Bad Seeds. But yeah, I haven't. So I know that song, but apart from that, I don't know anything.
Okay. Shall I tell you?
Yeah, tell me.
I'm going to tell you about the
Yeah.
album then. Okay, so it came out when I think he was just about to turn 40, so recorded when he was 39, which I imagine is a tough time in a man's life.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, I'm about to turn 40. So he's questioning some serious shit. It's about the breakdown of his marriage to his first wife, who was this Brazilian journalist who divorced in 1996, the year before it came out, so it's the year it was written and recorded. Also, there's a fair few songs on the album about his love affair with PJ Harvey. And those songs, it's West Country Girl, Black Hair and Green Eyes, all kind of very obviously about a girl from the West Country with black hair and green eyes, otherwise known as
Called
PJ Harvey.
PJ
Or
Harvey.
Polly Jean Harvey.
Yeah.
So it's very emotional record, and it's very kind of bare bones emotion. Like he's putting his heart on the line here, and you can really hear it because it's just a lot of the time just him and a piano. So it's a spectacular record. It is an emotional record. I was listening to it on the way to work this morning.
Really? Did you cry?
Well, I mean, it's a surprise that I was as cheerful this morning as I was when I came into the office, because actually it was a pretty tough time on
You were
the...
trying to cry,
Yeah.
having not cried since 1999 yourself. You wanted to squeeze a few tears out.
I cried 2 weeks ago, Tom. If
No way.
only you'd asked me more about myself, which you never do. Never, ever. There's some interesting things about this album. So, Into My Arms, the song that you just sang,
Performed.
gorgeously. I
Yeah.
think maybe that was the
Do you
first
want to
time
do it
I've
again?
cried. No, it's okay. He performed there at the funeral of Michael Hutchence in 1997,
Really?
who was his very close personal friend. He is, I think Nick Cave was the
Both
godfather.
Australian, of course.
Indeed, they all know each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small
Yeah.
place. Kevin Parker.
PJ Harvey, not Australian.
No, from the West Country,
The
where
West
you
Country,
are. You're
where
from the
I'm
West Country.
She's from Dorset, though. I'm from Devon.
Do you know her?
Just to clarify. Yeah.
Thought so. One of the weirdest things about this album is actually kind of came a few years after the song People Ain't No Good. Features on the film Shrek 2.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
You wouldn't really-
In what scene?
it's just kind of a theme throughout.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
but
That's
it's
good.
bizarre. I don't know if Shrek sings it. I mean,
That's probably one of those nice things, though, that films that are for kids do, so that the adults taking the kids to the film
Yeah.
also enjoy it. So they put things like that.
and they're like, ooh, it's a Nick Cave song into
Yeah.
Shrek now.
Yeah, that's good.
And that's a very nice song.
Yeah, okay.
But it's also about people not being good, as you can probably tell by the
Yeah.
title. It's influenced by kind of jazz, but also traditional Irish folk song. I know, much like one of the songs on Ed Sheeran's album as well.
Yeah,
Nick Cave and Ed Sheeran, quite a lot in common. They'd probably get on, actually.
I think so, yeah. They probably would. As discussed, Ed Sheeran gets on with everyone.
He does. He even gets on with Noel Gallagher. Noel Gallagher said, Ed, I don't like music. But Ed's like, doesn't matter, we get on as people. We're like, safe. That's fine. So when this album was released, the NME gave it 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I think we put it in like the top albums of the year.
It was the 23rd.
23rd.
23rd in NME's albums in 1997. What, Leonie,
Yes.
was number 1 that year?
97. Was it something I'd like?
I don't think you are that into it. You might sort of, I don't think so, not
Can
really.
you give me like 2 words to describe it?
Shoegaze.
Was it Mogwai?
No.
Okay. Was it,
That was in the top 10 though.
yeah, give me more.
Um,
No, it's 97 shoegaze. That's quite late for the shoegaze. I like it. Tell me.
it was Ladies and Gentlemen, We Are Floating in Space by
Oh!
Spiritualized.
I love that record.
Okay, fine.
I've got it in the CD I got it in was like a big pill, and you
Okay.
had to like take a knife and like slash around the edge.
Okay, yeah.
So it had been a big blister pack, and I realised I highly decreased the value of that CD by doing that. Should have just got Napster and just download, because that was around the period.
Number 2 is OK Computer by Radiohead.
Yeah, not for me.
Yeah,
What was number 3?
I don't know.
So Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds continue to be one of the UK's, I mean, they are Australian, well, he's Australian, but based in the UK for a very long time. One of the UK's the most popular live acts. He just announced a tour, him and the whole band, and I think it's sold out pretty much immediately, and they are incredible live. Were you at Glastonbury that year where that weird thing happened with the woman in the crowd? And
No.
so Nick Cave's sort of looming over the barrier, and there's this, I was going to say woman, but I think the word maiden would be more suited. A maiden in a white gown on someone's shoulders. And they have this really weird kind of intimate, he basically sings a whole song to her. I think they're almost touching hands, and she's kind of raven-haired maiden. Very intense, weird, like he was sort of hypnotising her, or she was bewitching him. It was quite the moment. Yeah.
I think they're touring later this year, aren't they? And I think it will be probably a very emotional tour, because it's the first tour they have done since Nick Cave's son died. So it'll be well, yeah, interesting to see how that affects them as a band, or what kind of songs they do. I don't actually know how many. The modern day Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, what do they play? Boatman's Call songs?
Oh, they go back
live?
over the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it depends.
I'm guessing
I
they do
can't guess their set list for the coming tour.
Yeah, but
they
usually-
do. Yeah, you get a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You get the kind of the dirty, sexy songs, then you get the lovely ballads, and then you get, when they went through their kind of porno phase, when Nick had the Tash,
Yeah,
the Dig Lazarus Dig period, which I'm
Yeah.
a very big fan of.
Grinder Man. Was that?
No, it was
there's
sort of the same time as Grinder Man.
Yeah.
Grinder Man, another great band. Essentially the same band, but called Grinder Man, because if you come up with a band name like Grinder Man, you can't not do
Yeah,
it.
got to use
I
it.
suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 years since the first Grinder Man album, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm into that. See, that's the thing. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm more aware of the Grinder Man than and Nick Cave's sort of very recent solo. Nick
Really,
Cave and the
that's-
Bad Seeds' very recent albums than his old stuff.
You're sort of like the people in America who only know Damon Albarn because of Gorillaz, and they're like,
Yeah.
who are Blur? You're those people.
Or people who like the Foo Fighters and don't like Nirvana. Unacceptable people. Yes, but I'll get there one day with Nick Cave. I just need a bit of time. But this just goes to show that he's been at the absolute peak of his game for, I don't know.
Well, that's
how
20
many
years, but he's been at the peak for like, since the early 80s.
What a king.
He is indeed a king. In terms of a rating, it's a 5 out of 5. It's just a stunning album.
Yeah, I'll give him an NA, because I don't know. But 5 out of 5. Into My Arms, 5 out of 5.
That's a 5 out of 5 song. The rest are pretty good as well. We can go and put it on now. You can have a little listen. And then,
Into my arms,
yeah, okay, we'll just
oh Lord.
drown you out. Thank
Into
you.
my arms,
Thank you very much
oh
for
Lord.
watching Albums Club. Again, we'll be back next week with some more albums and less singing from Tom, hopefully. You never know.
Yeah.
He's his own man, so he can do what he likes.
Bye-bye.